Namaste, welcome back to Mindful Serenity Yoga, or Waking Up in a Busy World. And we're going to continue with our answering of questions from, I was going to call it the COVID jar. Yes, everything is COVID to me now, experiencing the symptoms of it. I'm going to reach down and grab a question. I'm just going to read it quickly to make sure I can make out the writing. Okay. That's a good question. See if I can answer it. And I apologize because the last question I answered, I know I did not answer well, and I want to blame it on the way I'm feeling and talking and thinking, but I had said that anything I put, any answer I give is going to go up because I want this to be very authentic, and I don't want it to be tainted by this idea that I can edit and change and rearrange. This came from me for a reason, and offering it to you for a reason. Just like I pull out a question from the jar, never randomly, never knowing exactly what I'm going to have for a question to answer. So I'm going to press the start button here, start my timer, and I'm going to take a deep breath. It's hard to take a deep breath these days. Is psychotherapy helpful when we're talking about enlightenment? Is psychotherapy helpful when we're talking about enlightenment? Both psychotherapy and enlightenment are words that I'm quite familiar with, words that have enchanted me, if you want to use that term, for most of my life. I wanted to be a psychotherapist. I had every intention of becoming a psychologist in my early years. I did not become one. I went into nursing for all different reasons instead, but I did study psychology in a great deal, and anyway, I had a great interest in the idea of psychology and what psychotherapy could do for the human being, because I have always been more interested in how the mind controls our lives than I have been about the body and the variables around us. So I've been a big believer from the beginning that most of our suffering, most of our satisfaction in life comes from the mind. Whether or not we're happy or unhappy, it's not based on the circumstances we're handed by life. It's based on how our mind responds or reacts to what life gives us. So I had that notion from a very early age. I think I was 18 when I first picked up a book off my father's bookshelf called from Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking. And I was just enthralled with this idea that if we changed our thinking, we could change our lives. And I wanted to pass that on to other individuals. So psychotherapy was an interest of mine for a very long time. Recently, however, in the last decade or so, I've become, and I probably always have been, enthralled by the spiritual, non-physical dimension of our existence. But I was even more enthralled by it and more empowered, I think, to begin the enlightenment or waking up process on my own by delving into my mind, past all my conditioning and past all my beliefs, my core beliefs, to understand who I truly was beyond the body and mind. That would have happened with the last decade or so, and I am in the process, I guess, of becoming enlightened. I am far, far from enlightened. I am just beginning the awakening process, more or less just stretching and getting up out of bed, but I am making it my major focus in life, you might say. So when this question comes up between enlightenment and psychotherapy, I'm thinking, oh, okay. One time I thought psychology was the answer for everything, and now I am able to see beyond psychology to another realm of healing, which exists at a much deeper level, and that's where the enlightening or the waking up process would come in handy, or come into play. So the question was, however, do you see a role for psychotherapy in enlightenment, and how does that mesh? And I definitely think in my own evolution to this point, it began with a need to, first of all, get past all the defenses that I wore like armor around me that I thought was me. And that was the big thing, these defenses, this image I created of little me. I had to redeem it because of some past shaming. I had this need to become this super person, and or at least create this image of a super person, and had to try to convince myself to believe that's who I was, so I did not drop back down into the shame cord, the shamed based personality that I was in all my core beliefs. So I had initially thought psychology would be the way to do that, to break past these defenses and get to the core beliefs so I could change those. I knew I had to change my thinking, but the thinking's on the conscious level, core beliefs are on a subconscious level. I had believed that I could learn a lot in psychology to go down deeper, as Beck and Ellis taught, the rational emotive behavioral therapy, which later became CBT, how to restructure our thinking and our belief systems so that they were more life enhancing and life affirmative. So I thought psychology could give me that. So that was why I was focusing so much on psychology, and I was going from one level of psychology to the next, getting deeper and deeper and deeper. But then I hit a wall. I realized it's all psychology could take me. This is where psychology could take me. Something in me, as I start going through my armor and going through into my subconscious, into my really messy and really screwed up types of core beliefs that I was holding inside me, and I'm sure many people are, but we just don't tend to know exactly what those beliefs are because we're so lost on the conscious level or on the superficial level of our existence that we don't tend to actually question, what is it I truly believe? I think I believe this, but do I really believe this? And when you get to what you really believe, it's quite eye-opening. But even in that depth, I had hit a wall, or we could say a basement, what seemed like a basement floor. And it was like, this is not going to answer my questions. This is not going to solve my problems. I'm still talking about mind. I'm still talking about form identity, how I could be seen self-esteem-wise or esteem-wise in this world, this busy world of form and physicality. Where my reputation and success and my relationships with other individuals, all external things, the amount of money I made, the career I worked at, these things would be examples or would be representation of how successful I was in the psychology realm. And I realized, well, everything kind of went away there, taken from me by life circumstances in a sense. And I realized without those, I can't depend on psychology because I don't have that sense of esteem anymore. So where do I go? It was almost like I seen a little trap door and the bottom of all that mess that was me, and I put me in quotation marks, and I lifted up that door hatch, and looked inside. There's this big, spacious sky. That was the spiritual realm. And I realized that is where I wanted to be. Psychology is wonderful. In psychotherapy is wonderful in getting us to this point. Getting us to the point where we get to our core beliefs. But we can't stop at just changing our core beliefs. Underneath that is the dimension of who we really are, beyond our mind and our idea of personality and this little me, this egoic sense of self we have, to what's really, really important. That spacious sky that kind of allows the mind to be created on it and established on it. And it is there where I want it to be, and that's enlightenment. So the question then is, can psychotherapy help us? Yes, it can take us there, because we do have to start at the surface level, I believe, and dig our ways down into the subconscious depth. And from the self-conscious depth, look for that little hatch on the floor that will open up, and you will see how small that compartment is on the spaciousness of everything. Have a look outside of that. So it's a matter of getting beyond even that. So it can help us. It can help us work with the psychology, things that need to be worked with, our core beliefs, our fragmented self, our shadow selves that we've been ignoring, our, making peace with that, and establishing a healthy mind according to everybody else's terms before we learn to get beyond that mind and beyond the need for the things that we believe will build our self-esteem to what's really, really important. Well, that's all I have to say about that. I hope that answers the question. I am not sure if it did, but I hope so. Thank you so much for joining. Namaste.